Welcome back to One of One, a PLLRS Podcast. First of all, thanks for tuning in again. Today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Raury. I recently got familiar with a lot of your work. Your initial album was fire. I see why it got so much acclaim, why it got so much attention. We've had initial conversations before this because I do want to ask you some questions about some stuff you alluded to in Bushwick. But before we get into that, how are you doing, man? How's everything? How you holding up?
Man, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be, blessed enough to be making a living in music for all these years. And I'm glad to be out here in New York, bouncing around, doing the thing, still getting ready to put out more music, still receiving the love and right here with you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've been really balanced and just full of joy and looking forward to more life,
Yeah. I think the fanfare is definitely deserved. The music is fire. I see that you've been on this journey. You started when you were like 17, which is a crazy thing to be thrown into when most people are thinking about like prom or something like that. You're being called by and I don't know if these people are like personal heroes to you, but like some people would say like GOATs or greatest of all time. Your debut album, Indigo Child, got like attention from Kanye West, Andre 3000, people put in like the greatest of all time categories in terms of hip hop. What was that like for you to be thrown into that or transition into that?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say I was thrown into it. I've kind of like maybe since I was probably like 7, I was like rap battling my big brother. By the time I was 14, I decided I'm gonna do music for the rest of my life or it's nothing, and I've been grinding really early, and I was a little bit shocked, that I'm in high school and I'm my senior year. I'm got some singles coming out, got a really good team around me, and like I had to lie to my principal saying I'm going on college tour, but really, it's like Ye flying me out or it's Mac Miller having me come to the studio. It was an amazing experience, but it didn't rattle me too much. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of like it being this big shift, I was just overjoyed about it all, man. And it's really an honor. And there's also just that whole aspect of, when you meet people, you want to connect with them a bit more personally, and that happened to a degree. But, it's just like with some of these meetings, we were just like still kind of like passing by each other, I'm honored, for all the love I've been showed by some of, my heroes in the music game, So, yeah, man, that was just a really dope experience.
So even before you got signed, you felt like you already connected to, this is what you wanted to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I was crashing out over music.
Yeah, but like it's still nuts. Like, so besides like, you told me that you opened up for OutKast's during their last shows. You toured and you opened up for Lauryn Hill, Mumford & Son. Like, that's still massive. As prepared as you might be for that, that's still crazy, right?
Yeah. I remember when I was at the OutKast's At Last tour, I was just honored, man, to be on the same lineup with Childish Gambino, Cudi, and then OutKast's. To be aligned with that really did a lot for my spirit and heart. And I had never performed for 1,000 people, and here I am about to go in front of 20,000. I didn't know if I was just gonna pass out, if I was gonna explode in flames. I was like, man, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
But I did it, and I got past it, and it really set a standard for like what I believe I'm capable of, and just having more courage, just having courage, man.
I mean, having somebody like Kanye West tell you your music's amazing or you're great is like, I would imagine, like a sort of boost or like, you know, a confidence booster or ego boost.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like navigating that relationship and developing some sort of rapport with Kanye?
Well, I felt like Kanye was just curious and checking me out, and like, you know, even checking out like the team that I was coming up with, because we were making a lot of noise. I didn't really feel like we made that much of a rapport. More so of, you know, like when you're coming up, people just want to know like what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, like who are you? You know, like I don't think I've ever heard from Kanye himself telling me that like my music is great though.
Gotcha.
You know, I don't think that it was like all like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Kanye was cool. Wanted to meet me. We met. But I wish that around that time we actually got to like make some music. But you know that didn't happen. But it was still an honor to meet him.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's dope.
Yeah, man.
Were there any other artists or any type of other collabs that might have been in the works or been discussed that just didn't like come into fruition or didn't connect for whatever reason?
You know, I mean, yeah, I remember there was one time where I was supposed to go to a studio session with Cudi, and it was like around my birthday, and it just like flaked, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
You know, if that's the question.
Yeah.
I don't personally feel like my heroes fuck with me as much as I wanted them to.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, you know what I'm saying? It was cool to like meet them in passing and whatnot, but you know, the way that like you see like a Gucci man like take Migos or whoever and all these people under their wing. I love how these artists do that.
Yeah.
But to a certain degree, you know, I don't think every artist does that. You know, I wish there was a lot more infrastructure for, you know, passing the torch or just, you know, like looking out for like other artists who like really care about the craft. You know, like I would say special shout out to like B.o.B because he definitely did that with me. You know, shout out, you know, like Joey Bada because, you know, he was like, though we're like close in age, he was also like a hero of mine that also reached out to me, actually worked with me, was actually like a friend towards me, you know, like also like Jaden, real friend towards me to this day. And I think that's beautiful. And I think that a lot of artists should, specifically artists on the unbeaten path, we should definitely look out for each other more. Because also when you're a different artist, or when you're like a GOAT, or when you're like this estranged kind of artist, sometimes we get a bit like obsessed with being like I think that's like a bit of our claim to how special we are, is that no one's like us, so it tends to be a bit more competitive.
Yeah, I was gonna
It tends to be a bit more competitive. I mean, like rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? So I would speak to that end, you know, is everybody wants to be like the only different person in the room, you know.
I think hip hop as a culture at its core is like super competitive, and I think it's rare. It's funny that you mentioned Gucci because, like, you know, he's been in so much conversation as of late, and a lot of people credit him to basically being a guide and basically pushing his artists forward and giving them every opportunity. But I don't know if it's rare. Like I'm just from the outside looking in. In terms of optics, I've seen artists push other artists, but then I don't know how much of that is politicking or how much of that is I see you're going in a certain direction, so I'm going to take advantage of whatever momentum you have to keep myself fresh or whatever it is. At what point do you feel like that competition like hinders the culture or holds back, like, you know, the growth of the culture and that being moved forward?
I think when certain artists, like when people want to like hold on to like the torch forever and have no plans of actually giving back to the soil that they came from, or even like up and coming artists that are like super dope, you know what I'm saying? I feel like that's where it starts to like hinder the beauty of this game, you know, like Stevie Wonder took Michael Jackson under a wing, and then we wouldn't have Michael Jackson without Stevie Wonder. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a beautiful thing, you know? I don't think there's enough, like, intentional teaching and, infrastructure amongst, like, artists in my lane and artists like me that have gone like way further to like pull each other up, because I guess maybe it's just hard enough for us as different artists to even get through the door, and then there's that constant pressure to once again fold into the status quo. Yeah. So I think, you know, maybe a lot of us are a bit like just traumatized.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of trauma in there with artists like me when it comes to, you know, how to work with other people. And like we're so like weird and we're so like different. Like we barely even understand ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I guess maybe like when you think of like a Gucci, you know, or maybe like Future or who else, like there's a formula to it. You know, you put it together, you take it to the club, boom, boom, boom. Like the more the merrier. But I guess, you know, maybe like everything isn't so certain, you know, for artists that do something a bit different, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you could make an argument for like I guess a Young Money or like, you know, Wayne and Drake and Nicki Minaj. Well, I mean, I know Nicki did also come up under Gucci and she had guidance in other spaces, but I think you make a great point and a great argument for pushing new artists, because you don't get this new music, and then it takes nothing away from Wayne. Mm-hmm. Wayne is still a fantastic artist. Wayne is still selling out shows. People still want to listen to that music. So you got signed to LVRN in 2014, and then you walked away in 2018. What was that decision to go independent fueled by, or was it a decision to go independent, or like what was the thinking behind walking away from the label at that point?
Well, you know, for one, shout out to my brothers that I got into that door with, Love Renaissance. You know, I had been working with them maybe since not even 2014, but maybe 2013, when I was just a 15-year-old, or, you know, rapping at 1,000 miles an hour, still trying to find my way. These guys did take me under their wing, and they were college kids, and they would be putting up their own money, getting ready to sell their own cars to keep me in the studio, and we kicked those doors open. So I start off by saying, like, shout out to them. Is as we grew, you know, the dynamic of, you know, being so much of a little brother and like not that we were always like a bit different. You know, we didn't necessarily have like the same vision and the same path where we wanted to take things. So I kind of just got a bit tired of maybe having people in my ear that don't like respect my vision as much as maybe Pharrell's team respects his vision. You know what I'm saying? So he can execute it. You know, I don't think he has a bunch of people like pulling him this way and that way because they have somewhere that they want to go through your music. You know what I'm saying? And I just felt like, you know, I needed to take my own path. There are certain things that I really loved. I really care about the craft. Like, you know, I'm a person that's really big on building and honing in on my skill so I can deliver more. So I'd say like maybe like around like the early days of my career working on Indigo Child, you know, the first one, like I didn't fully know how to produce. I wanted to learn how to produce, you know, but you know, the team's probably like, that's going to take too long. Or you're like, oh, do you really want to produce? Do you really want to do that? You know, like, well, I was tired of being in the studio and having to pick production that someone else made. But you know what I'm saying? It's not exactly to my vision. So I learned the more I hone in on my skills, the better I can deliver. I started learning how to produce. And then boom, like we have God's Whisper, boom, we have, you know, Cigarette Song, shout out to Day Trip working together with me on that, you know, but the more I honed in on my own ability to create, the better I got. And I feel like when it comes down to like the capitalism of the game, they want the burger. You know what I'm saying? Like give us the burger and they make it the quickest way possible, you know, and like, so there's another point where I have a particular vision, you know, like I want to, like my first album is like Indigo Child. Like I'm talking about all this freedom, you know, but I actually want to be about this freedom. I don't want to just be a mascot for it. And I want to just, you know, talk about it and not like walk about it. You know, I wanted to create 501c3s. I wanted to, you know, bring people to like vegan farms or just farms in general and teach people about autonomy. And they weren't too into that. They didn't really like care that much about that, you know. They're and like I just got tired of like just having to fight, and I also want to learn how to engineer and learn how to work my own studio so I can figure out how to mix and communicate to my engineers even better about like, hey, this is how I need the sound to be. And you know, once again, I'm young and I'm still like developing. You know, I'm like around like my like 19, 20. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yeah, like this is what I want to do. You know, but then there'll be times they'll be like, you know, like Raury, like just rap, or like Raury, just sing, or like just do this, just do that. I'm like, no man, I love the craft and I want to grow and I want to sharpen myself. And it just got to a point where I just felt like I was being carrot and rabbit sticked, like with the budget and, you know, people pretending that they don't understand what I'm creating. Because I guess, you know, after my career began, there were other artists that came out and they have amazing sounds and they were going farther than I was going based on where I was at. And then, you know, it becomes that whole like grass is green on the other side. Like, look at this other artist. Look at this other artist. Make this kind of sound. Compete with this artist. Compete with this artist. But, you know, from day one, even with that team, like I don't really think they really like when God's Whisper was made, like I don't think they really like saw where that was gonna be. You know, like I needed to get with a team that respected my art and my vision and trusted me as a creative. And I also felt like I need to come back into the industry as a grown man that understands and is like respected by my team and can execute my vision. And I'm grateful. I was very grateful for where I was at. You know, I'm young. I got all my life to be making music. You know what I'm saying? I'm not in a rush. So I took that arc, I took that training arc that I've been on to just understand the game a bit more and to navigate it on my terms. And I think it all comes rooted from being like grateful for everything that I have accomplished and that having that indomitable spirit that, you know, like as long as I'm breathing, I'm gonna make dope music. Like as long as I already put out amazing music, I feel like, and I put it out with love, and the artists and the fan base that loves me, they're not going anywhere. Just grind and like live your life and get better and deliver, you know, and just trust. So yeah, I let go of everything and I went through hell in silence. You know, I wanted to help my friends also. That was another thing, you know, I felt like I was constantly kept out in LA, creating opportunities for people that are not coming back to my community and watering my community where I'm trying to be. I felt separated from all my friends and people that I cared about. They were, you know, that's one thing is that like when you take off and you come from the bottom, a lot of people next to you, they may not receive it well. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of like, you know, like I had friends of mine like kind of just like crashing out and taking the wrong paths because like there was a lot of exposure that they were exposed to by being next to me, a lot of people around them, you know, that are, you know, like putting them in situations and places. And I felt also like a big sense of duty to like help my friends. And like my team, they didn't care about that. They didn't care about that. I wanted to be in Atlanta. I wanted to help my friends. I wanted to start a studio. I wanted to learn how to engineer. And I wanted to continue my growth as a major player in the city of Atlanta and, you know, run a studio in Atlanta and just like build up from there. I didn't want to just be so disconnected from my roots, you know? So I hope I'm answering your question.
No, you definitely answered it.
Yeah, I can ramble.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good.
Cool.
It's a dope attitude to have about walking away from that and not really carrying any like bitterness after the fact. What do you feel like keeping in the spirit of that you might have avoided if you had stayed?
What might have I avoided had I stayed?
Yeah, because if you stayed, like you obviously would have went on a different path. What was the fear of staying? Because obviously going out on your own has to still be like somewhat scary or somewhat daunting just to go out and have this machine around you and to be completely independent and figure that out on your own. So it had to be something that pushed you, or something that you were more afraid of in regards to staying.
I was afraid of having my inner voice silenced and being disconnected from that inner voice that gave me the power to create what I create. Yeah. Being and having to listen to someone else's direction. You know, I'm a big fan of visionaries, and and what I feared would be taken away from me was like my sight in that way, like big fan of how like Prince was a visionary, and how he like navigated, like I had such a vision, and I was like, man, like it's not gonna blossom if the people around me don't believe in it. And I know that the vision might be a bit crazy, or not even crazy, but like not conventional, and not, like, hey, like, boom, let's do this, let's go to the club, let's pop bottles, boom, boom, boom. That's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's fun. You know what I'm saying? You might catch me, but but at the core of why I do music and why I'm out here on the stage, it's I'm trying. Sometimes I feel like I'm fighting an uphill battle, and I'm trying to do the impossible, and I'm actually making music to get humanity closer to like freedom. And that's why, I created the Woods organization, and the Woods organization is completely nature core. And what do we want to make cool? We want to make, growing your own food cool. We want to make being out in nature cool. We want to create propaganda to, make that shit the coolest shit in the next 10 years. You know what I'm saying? And this was before COVID happened, and everybody decided, oh shit, like I can only imagine what would happen if my team was like, yeah, like let's do that, and we doubled down on that, and then boom, COVID happened. We already had like that kind of system ready, going. Yeah. We're already making that shit cool. It would have been like, but yeah, and I needed to get people that wanted to do the same thing, to be rooted in making the world a better place,
I think initially, or a while ago, I can't pinpoint when, that sounded like crazy doomsday preppery kind of stuff, growing your own food and all that. But I think it's more commonplace and more like available now. You have people like Killer Mike talking about it. You have people like basically championing being self-sufficient. And I'm going to go back to what we're talking about, but you mentioned the Woods and the effort you want to make in regards to your 501c3s. What's the end goal in that? Like, what were you trying to give back to your community in regards to that?
I'm figuring it out along the way. I have a lot of ideas as far as, if I were ever to come into millions, I want to help like create communities and bring things forward where, maybe there were like earth ships, and like there's like a touring circuit between all this stuff and venues and whatnot, and people could, like live in these neighborhoods. I want to get into like real estate and like also create like a touring circuit, with like autonomous lifestyle. I want to put together festivals where everything there is biodegradable as far as the plastics and things like that go. I just wanted to use all the power that comes with being a well-known artist to shift things in a better direction, and I once again wanted to just share the visual with people and and inspire people to go touch some grass, man. Go connect with nature. Like I feel like nature is highly spiritual. I feel like, God lives in us and everything, and also in nature. I feel like, you can heal yourself with the sun. I feel like, that we live in a world that has us greatly disconnected from nature, and a lot of our pain and trauma comes from our disconnection with nature. And if I can just inspire people to, to want to realize that they are one with nature and to reconnect with nature and make it a very important part of their lives, well, then that would be good enough for me. But the big thing, the whole big dream of, creating the communities for people to live out you know, like maybe like an hour away from Atlanta where there's a venue, and one in Florida and one here and one there in the Southeast, and then we expand. That would be cool. You know, like on some Osho shit, but not as crazy.
Gotcha.
But no, Osho wasn't crazy. Osho was chill. But shit got crazy. You know?
A little bit. Going back to your transition into being an independent artist, what are the difficulties in navigating that? But what are some of the upsides? I would imagine it'd be the freedom and the clarity.
I've had to bump my head around for the past 10 years, figuring out my strengths and weaknesses when it comes to business, figuring out like who can I trust in certain positions. You know, I had to every day, every 11/11, every time I get a chance to make a wish or to like pray or to manifest something, I manifest and pray that I have the capacity and the ability to navigate the challenges that come with being a global superstar, you know, and to do it healthfully, you know. But you know, when you take those train tracks off of like the team that you came in here with, you know, like you have to start from square one. And honestly, like I've kind of been like, I've been burned a lot here and there by people, you know, who, you know, once again, you're gonna bump your head, you're gonna have mishaps, you're gonna want to help out with people who are gonna like take advantage of you. You gotta have to figure out how to move past operating in resentment and keep a mind state of gratitude. You just rockstar lifestyle on difficult mode, man. Like, and but the upsides are and the challenges is that like you have to actually learn. You have to actually learn what you're doing, and the upside is like, you know, once you learn the rules, you know them well enough to, you know the rules well enough to bend them. You know, you gotta really get into your craft. You know, like engineering, playing your instrument this is my path. Everyone's path isn't the same. You don't have to do that, but you know, like I when I look at, you know, Childish Gambino, or like certain artists who are very deeply involved with their craft, that's how you get the show Atlanta. He wrote it, he acted in it, and he, you know, did all of that. When I feel like, you know, you remember Prince in Purple Rain, like he engineered, he produced, he played his instruments, his microphone was on. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you give the world unfiltered vision in a creative piece that'll keep people inspired for centuries, if so be. So I feel like the upside is the freedom to create what you want, but the downside is the challenge to actually learn to read and to realize that, you know, like it's on you to make the right decisions, you know.
So this independent journey you've been on, and it started off with you at LVRN and you wanting to learn these different things, to you transitioning, being independent, you have to now learn these things and how to navigate them, to now currently you're with Spinach Gang and you have that new relationship.
Yes.
What inspired that connection? How'd that start? Where was the introduction, and what's the plan moving on into the future?
Yeah, I had been doing this thing. I have, like, you know, here we are, 2025, 2024-ish, and I was at this retreat put together by Erica Rose, Iset Rose. She's a really dope spiritual mentor of mine. I was at this retreat, just doing like a lot of meditation and things like that, and I got a message. One time it was like, you know, like, all right, say a prayer, go out and just listen to nature and figure out what it is. You know, like I pray, like, you know, in order to live in my highest purpose, what do I need to do? I asked that, you know, I prayed on that, and I just took a walk through the woods at this retreat. And I was getting bit the fuck up by mosquitoes. And what I learned, I was like, oh, move. Get in motion, like move. That's what it told me, like to move. In a lot of different ways, you know, like not just to dance, but to like to move, to act. So I started coming to New York once a month, like, you know, putting my money aside to just come up here once a month, bounce around. Plot gets thicker, you know. I ended up even in Atlanta. I started moving around Atlanta how I move around in New York because I don't always do that, and I was doing that. And I met a lovely young lady named Aisha, who then reached out to me to do this interview in New York City. And I come to this interview, and I wasn't, you know, I was expecting to do an interview, and I ended up, Brad was there, you know, and the other lovely lady whose name I can't remember right now, she's awesome though. And I started learning about Spinach Records during this interview, and it's like, you know, a label that was like focused on wellness, a label that was, you know, focused on like, sounds like everything I'm about. And I'm like, you know what? Let's talk. Like, let's talk, you know? I got my own thing, because that's the other thing about it is that I'm with all the trauma and the scars that comes with moving through the game, you have to also still keep your heart open to trusting people, because that's the other tricky part, you know? Like, you can't hold on to resentment and like put other people or expect the worst from people. You know what I'm saying? You gotta, I do my best to move through life expecting the best. It's a projection of what's within me, even though I fall short sometimes. But I do my best to move through life expecting the best out of people. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, Brad, we should talk, because like I have my strengths. You know, I'm doing my best to do a lot of things on my own, but I don't know how to do everything. And I've tried to do everything long enough to know that I don't want to do everything. I want to do music. Yeah. I want to do music. I'm glad to know what I know as far as business, and I'm into business, and like, let's do that. And I'm not, you know, like just green out here, grown ass man. I know, like, you know, how to plug my music into BMI, how to plug it into wherever I need to, how to do business with my other collaborators and make sure that everyone's happy and this and that, and how to organize a show and whatnot. But there's another level of expertise. And that's the other thing that comes with being independent, is also realizing how to, or even being the leader of anything, you know, or is to know your strengths and weaknesses and how to lean on other people. I feel like the best leaders know how to how and when and where to like ask for help. Yeah. And it's not every day that you see someone doing what Brad and the whole Spinach gang is doing. I was like, you know, and I'm also really big on serendipity. You know, like my whole thing is the woods. There's spinach. Like, oh, well, it seems like we like nature.
The connection.
Yeah, like honestly, like I was okay. Like, let's talk. And we from then on we just been talking. And Brad just super chill, intelligent, mature person that, you know, I you know, also feel like I'm even learning more about, you know, and inspired to be on a path of wellness the more I talk with this guy and learn more about him and the people around him, you know, and seems like a good fit. So, you know, like what's going on in the future is, you know, we're going to put together and deliver some of the dopest albums I've ever offered the world before. You know, Indigo Child was amazing. All We Need was amazing. The Woods was amazing. Strawberry Moon was amazing. Fervent was amazing. All these albums were amazing. But now I'm also at a point of mastery where, all right, like let's also reapproach the system from an understanding point. And I feel like I understand the rules enough where I can make the rules work for me, gotcha. You know, and work with me. So yeah, we're becoming teammates and partners, and we're gonna kick ass.
Dope. No, I believe that. Shout out to Brad.
And shout out to Brad, man.
So at this point in your career, with everything you learned, everything you navigated, still moving in gratitude and all the growth, at this point now, are there any producers or artists that you're looking at that you're like, okay, yeah, I'd love to maybe connect and work with them or figure that out?
First, I want to shout out my brother Hirsch, who runs the Wood Studios with me. very amazing producer and engineer that we work together all the time, and our journey is even deepening. Shout out to Mr. DJ from Dungeon Family, who also like took me under his wing and taught me a lot and looked out for me. And other artists and producers that I highly respect, like at the top of my list, got to be Dijon and MK.gee. Like wow, like they're doing exactly what I love about music, and exactly what I aim to do with music is to kick open a fourth wall and be like, yeah, like, oh, you thought you understood, like you like gives you a new perspective on music in general, on sound in general. It's a really amazing thing. I really got a lot of respect for Daniel Ceasar and his musicianship. Super dope artist, instrumentalist. A lot of respect for bro. Let's see, King Krule's that guy. Love King Krule. The people I would love to like link arms with and kick ass with. Let's see, what's that lady's name? This girl named Indys Blue in New Orleans, who has this very soulful voice. I would like to produce. I'm working on like producing for her. Really dope artist. There's Cara Jackson. She has a voice that I've never heard before. She has this really cool baritone vocal. She's an amazing acoustic guitarist and whatnot. Let's see. I can go for miles and miles about this, man. You know, like, but those are some really dope artists that I really like look at and respect what they're doing. You know. Yeah.
I think the dope thing right now is people are gonna box like hip hop into one thing, but I think you could even take that and break that down into multiple genres. And I think it's starting to get into a place where people thought they had this cap in terms of their careers, but then you look at people like Griselda or you look at the Alchemists that are showing you that no, like, you know, you could do hip hop like for as long as you want to do it, and you can have a career as long as you'd like. So as you're going in, like what do you want out of the I don't want to say the rest of your career. What do you want out of your career? You mentioned Childish Gambino. You mentioned Atlanta. Are there other mediums you'd want to explore? Like, what do you see happening in the future? What are you trying to sort of move in the direction of?
I want to actually change the game and the way it's played. I want to change the way we tour. I want to change why we tour, what people get out of a show versus, you know, like, because it's lit. But, you know, just going somewhere, you know, and getting drunk, and that's fun. And like, you know, but I also want to set a new infrastructure for just touring in general, for doing shows, or I want to shift culture completely, like the way that, you know, the way that Ye did, the way that ASAP Mob did, the way that Odd Future did, the way that, you know, all these other really cool movements did. I want to shift it in the direction of just naturecore, bro. That's what I'm about, you know, and in so many different ways. Like, so I could see myself as, you know, being a community builder, a neighborhood creator, like just reinventing the way that people live, finding ways to make that kind of lifestyle something not so daunting, but even more attractive, autonomous lifestyle, homesteading, and making it accessible and easy for people to get to. Because that's also the daunting thing is, you know, like that transition, because your life would change if you were to try that, but also not to make it so intimidating for people because, you know, like I'm not living that life yet. I'm trying to get there. Everyone's on their journey. Some people don't even care about that, but, you know, like you don't have to just like walk away from Wi-Fi. That's not, you know, like we're not trying to get anyone to just say like, no, we want to bring things to like a balance. I want to introduce like a balance. So, you know, I kind of want to like damn near like be a Walt Disney. I want to be a Steve Jobs. I want, like, in the sense of through my craft and music inspiring and changing the way a lot of people live for a better, and in a way that reconnects them to like nature and making that shit some of the, like the coolest shit on the planet to do. you know.
And
that's what I want to do.
I
make
think
that shit
people are
dope.
definitely in that
you know
place
what I'm
now.
saying? Yeah, make that shit dope. You know, because that's a lot of thing that wellness and whatnot is kind of misses the mark in, is just like the understanding of like cool, like how you make it look cool, instead of people seeing it and thinking, oh, it's a bunch of crunchy granola shit, all right, whatever.
I thought the same way. I'm
yeah,
not
you
gonna
know,
front.
but we gotta
I'm
make
not
it
gonna hold
dope.
you.
know what I'm saying?
I think it was a lot of the ambassadors though, kind of fucked it up a little bit. A lot of the ambassadors pulling up was like, I was with the health food shit until all the other stuff. I can't have shoes or none. I was like, I can't. Really
I don't like that either.
The extreme
we're
stuff,
not
I think,
trying to,
pulls people away.
Yeah, man, the policing ain't cool. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but then the caring about, I think people are in a space now where they're like, yeah, I care about where my food comes from. I care about what's in my clothes. I care about like stuff that's like, I didn't know this like had carcinogens or whatever it is. Some people didn't even know what that was. So I think you're in a great space in terms of navigating that now.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Is it just like social engineering? Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds dark though. Sounds kind of scary.
I mean, it's a thing. No, it sounds. But it sounds very ominous. Definitely.
Yeah, no, you know what I'm saying. I don't know, but I do want to create. I do want to create like the coolest nature core propaganda to just like inspire people to go do that.
I actually have a story about that. So shout out to my boy Steve Sams. I don't know if he's going to see this. So during COVID, Steve reached out to me. And he was like, yo, there's this like commune out in Mexico, like outside of Tulum. And apparently there's like the same way in the United States, they have land set aside for indigenous people. They have the same thing in Mexico, apparently, for people that are like descendants of the Aztecs. So it's like just land set aside. And Steve called me and he was like, bro, there's so much going on. And he's very into like, the woods type stuff, like growing his own food, that type of thing. Come out here, like, there's a guide that will basically bring you in. There's this whole commune. It's amazing. You could just build out here. You don't even have to navigate the land or who owns it. You could just do stuff out here. And he was like, yeah, a guide has to get you in there because you have to navigate the jungle. And then, like, once you get out here, there's no rules. And I'm like, Steve, I got kids. I need rules, bro. I need rules. I can't go into the jungle with you with a guy. How am I going to get home? Yeah, I can't do that. Yeah, so that's the stuff that kind of is like, okay, yeah, I can't really mess with it. Yeah, but some balance. Yeah.
What if you're like, what town in Jersey you live in?
Right now I'm over by South Orange.
Okay, just imagine, like, hey man, like 30 minutes away from here, 30 minutes away from that town is a neighborhood of earth ships, and they have a bartering system. But you can also do a difference between bartering or however you pay your rent, or if you're growing stuff there for the community versus money to go into town, work your part-time job, but also you can live here and just water your plants.
That's dope.
And
you could literally buy a city if you want it. Like they have that. Like, I didn't know that, but like in the Midwest, they have like these old towns. There's a show called The Walking Dead, and apparently they bought like an old mining town to shoot there and stuff. So
that's crazy.
That'd be dope.
If I come into some M's, that's definitely what I'm on. That's definitely what I'm on.
I think, and I might be wrong. This might be like some type of like conspiracy thing, but like I think some Chinese company bought like some town out in Ohio or something, and they're just doing stuff out there. You could just buy a city. Like old cities, but it's not as crazy price wise as you would think. Like if you have a crib in LA, you could probably buy a town in the Midwest.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
No, deadass. Like they're like $2-3 million. It's not something crazy. You're thinking it's insane, but it's like you buy it and it's like a post office and there's buildings and there's schools. It might be like $2-3 million. Crib in LA is like what? Like I don't know.
It's rad.
So, bro, I appreciate you pulling up. Like a super dope conversation. I appreciate what you're trying to do in the culture, and I sincerely believe it's all gonna happen.
Yeah, man, I'm here to push new ideas, outlandish ideas, kick open the fourth wall. You know what I'm saying? And it's been a great life, and I'm grateful for I'm grateful for you, Reg, sitting here yapping with me, and all the people that have supported me and carried me this far in my life, And yeah, man, I give it up to God, man. I give it up to God.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
I hear a lot of words. Like, I'm outside. Like, I hear words a lot. I've never heard anyone say Clussy before, like, in my life. It's the first time. That's
Google it.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate you guys for pulling up. Again, thanks, Raury, for pulling up. Shout out to Brad. Shout out to the Spinach Gang. Shout out to Keith. And also shout out to Rose. Shout out to the entire Pillars team and the production here at MNN. Thanks for watching.